Hello and welcome to Steve's Vintage Model Builds. Welcome back to subscribers and returning viewers. And if you're a first-time viewer, a most hearty welcome. I hope you find what I do here enjoyable, informative, sometimes helpful, and at times probably unintentionally hilarious. Huh? Okay, so I'm not going to beat the dead cat, but I just want to say thank you to everyone who's expressed condolences on the loss of our Jack, Peter Oxley, Garfield, Stuart, Steve, Roger. Thank you all very much, and everyone else. We really appreciate it. It's a tough time, but anyways. Just thank you, sincerely. We appreciate it, and it has helped. Okay, so today we got something a little different. Always try to have a bit of variety here at the Vintage Model channel. And I try to bring somewhat unique subjects. I am not, as subscribers and returning viewers well know, I am not a master modeler. I'm far from it. I'm an old guy who likes to assemble models, and I do my best decorating them up, and hopefully I'm happy when I'm done. So, all right, so we got a box today in the mail. Nice box. This was ordered through Amazon, and although I believe it was shipped by the third-party vendor. And it's not much of a kit, but I hope everybody will have fun. Me talking about some various different things related to this kit. I'm going to pause while I get into this here. Okay, so we've got this opened up, and we're going to turn it over carefully. And get it out here. There it is. There it goes. With the packing slip. This came from Now Hobby Supplies Limited. And they're down in southwestern Ontario, Kitchener. Down. Hey, Garfield, that's down your way in Kitchener. Okay, so here it is. It's the Atlantis Nike Hercules ground-to-air missile. And it's 140 scale. And we've got 3 launching crew figures. Separate booster stage, moving parts, colorful U.S. Army decals. And it comes with not only the missile, but also the launch platform as well. And we have a note here, produced under license from Boeing, McDonnell Douglas, etc., etc., etc. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. Loving to see this, made in America. Ages 14 up, contains 1 plastic model kit. Manufactured by Atlantis Toy and Hobby in Deer Park, New York. And so here's one other view of it. And then we get to the other side here. Oh, this is Atlantis catalog number H as in hotel 1804. Gives you a paint guide here. Total length 13.5 inches, width 3.5 inches. Total number of parts 70, molded in white with water slide decals. And they give you paint colors. They don't recommend a paint manufacturer. Black, green, gray, copper, brown, flesh, silver. I think there's probably some white in there too. And so I'll read the little blurb here. We're going to go into this. We're going to go into this more. About your Douglas Nike Hercules missile. During the Cold War era, the Nike Hercules was the second combat-ready land-based surface-to-air missile to be put into operation by the U.S. Army. The dart-shaped 27-foot-long missile carried a deadly atomic warhead and had a range of 70 to 100 miles. The warhead was designed to ensure that detonation could only occur at altitudes sufficiently high to prevent damage to friendly surrounding territory. Yeah. The collaborative effort between the Douglas Aircraft Carrier, Army Ordnance Corps, Bell Telephone Lab, as opposed to the Bell Aircraft Company, and Western Electric was a fine example of American industry working together to solve complex problems and protect American cities in the event of a full-scale nuclear attack. Okay. Now, as I said, this isn't a big kit, and we will go through it. But I wanted to talk a little bit about some different historical things. We'll start with the missile itself, if I can get out of this. There, that takes some of the glare off anyways. There we go. So we've got some box art here, and this, without a doubt, is the oldest tooling. Well, no. It's the second oldest. The oldest was the Super Fortress, which was originally tooled in 1945. This was originally a Revell kit, so it's an Atlantis rebox, excuse me. And it was tooled in 1957. So in 1957, the missile itself was pretty new. So anyways, okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about the Project Nike. Nike was a family of missiles, and Nike was the Greek goddess of victory, and it was the Nike Project Nike was first proposed in 1945 by Bell Laboratories to develop a line-of-sight anti-aircraft missile system. The project delivered the United States' first operational anti-aircraft missile system, the Nike Ajax, in 1953. And they built upon the Ajax, and after the Ajax, the next iteration was the Hercules. Then came the Zeus, and then there was an X model. It was a first stage solid rocket booster that became the main booster for many different rockets and missiles. So towards the end of World War II, now we get into the really fun history part. Towards the end of, and I'm going to say ahead of time, first of all, there may be some opinionating from me. I usually don't get political, and I try to avoid that. But there will be points here where I express an opinion, and and I hope everyone will understand that it's my opinion, and you don't have to agree with it. And you can certainly leave a comment if you do disagree with it, but please be respectful. So, anyways, by the end, towards the end of World War II, with the advent of not only missiles like the V2, jet aircraft were coming into service, and the old gun style based systems that were used, in First World War, Second World War. They were, they saw the writing on the wall. It wasn't going to be adequate for aircraft that were that quick and flew at such high altitudes. So they put out requests for proposals, and 2 of them were accepted. The first one was from Bell Laboratories, and that offered Project Nike, and General Electric proposed a much longer range collision course system called Project Thumper, which eventually delivered the Beaumark missile. So the Bell Labs proposal would have to deal with bombers flying at 500 miles per hour plus, 800 kilometers per hour plus, or even supersonic, at altitudes of up to 60,000 feet. At these speeds, even a supersonic rocket is no longer fast enough to be simply aimed at the target. The missile must lead to the target to ensure the target is hit before the missile depletes its fuel. Basically, they had to come up with a triangulating radar system, and they were aided considerably by the British, using their kerosene predictor for a basis. It was a total of 3 radars. As I said, it was basically a triangulation. The first radar, Electronic Search Central, searched for the target, and then once that target was acquired, it was handed over to the target tracking radar. And then the missile tracking radar tracked the missile by way of a transponder, as the missile's radar signature alone was not sufficient. So the MTR also commanded the missile by way of pulse position modulation. Pulses were received, decoded, then amplified back to the MTR to track. So Douglas was the primary contractor, and they built a 2-stage missile, solid fuel booster stage and liquid fueled second stage. The electronics were so Bell Systems came up with the concept, with the idea and the proposal, and then it was handed over to Douglas to do the actual building. And Douglas built the missile itself, while the Bell Systems electronics firm, Western Electric, was responsible for all of the electronics. Consolidated Western Steel produced the launcher loaders, and the Freuhoff Trailer Corporation produced the trailers that it was carried on. As you can see here, it's a big one, but it's on its trailer. So anyway, so there's a lot of politics came into things, and et cetera, et cetera. But anyways, they eventually got it off the ground, as it were. And as soon as the Ajax was completed, they started on the Nike B, which is the Hercules, and its official code name MIM-14. Initially, and we'll get into this a little bit more. Initially, the missile system was designed to shoot down aircraft. obviously long-range strategic aircraft, like the B-52, although the Soviet Union and Russia, the Soviet Union never had a jet-powered strategic bomber, and I don't think they do even now. Their long-range strategic bombers are still four-prop aircraft. So, excuse me. Why you need a 20 kiloton atomic warhead to shoot down airplanes? Not sure about that, unless it's meant to spread over a wide area and knock down a bunch all at once. And like I said, for the Hercules, it was a 20 kiloton yield warhead, and all sites in the United States exclusively carried the nuclear warhead. Sites in foreign nations typically had a mix of high exposure explosive and nuclear warheads. It was also tested for surface-to-surface use, but it really didn't. Yeah, so the missile was first deployed in June 1958. So this was a right off the assembly line kit, and it was first deployed to Chicago, of all places. Not sure why that would be, but in any case, maybe because it's a major central transportation hub for the United States. That would be my guess. And by 1960, there were 88 Hercules batteries, 174 Ajax batteries, which defended 23 zones across 30 states. Peak deployment was in 1963 with 134 Hercules batteries, but that did include the U.S. Army Hercules batteries deployed in Germany, Greece, Greenland, Italy, Korea, Okinawa, Taiwan, and Turkey. And so I'm going to talk now about what people of my generation know and knew as the space race. And that's all very dramatic and gets people's attention. But really the space race was a missile race. As even jet-powered bombers, as missile technology advanced, and they could go farther, and then intercontinental ballistic missiles were invented, and then I'm not sure if the Soviets did, because they always had problems with, they had to, the Soviets and the Russians, they build stuff big. I'm not going to make any ethnic comments, other than, when you can't understand how to make things small, you make them big. That's all I'm going to say about that. Anyways, so they were very aggressive, developing heavy lift missiles and rockets, and the United States fell behind. I mean, the Soviets were the first to put a satellite, artificial satellite, into orbit around the Earth, Sputnik. Which, I mean, if there's anybody young, any younger people, they might be absolutely amazed that that would be considered such an accomplishment, but it was. You could actually look up in the sky on a clear night, and you could see that Soviet satellite going around and going around. And if they could put a satellite up there, they could put other stuff up there, like they're trying to do now, but pretending they're not. Excuse me. So, and of course, after World War II and the Iron Curtain, the Soviet and Warsaw Pact nations, the the Iron Curtain descended on Eastern Europe, and they called it a Cold War, but it was a pretty hot proxy war everywhere from South and Central America to the jungles of Vietnam and Korea, fighting in Korea. And so it was a very real threat, and the Marxists are always screaming about American imperialism. Well, as we see now, it's the Russians who are the imperialists, and so they were very tense times for a long time, and still there's the nuclear clock, that physicists set close to midnight as to how close to nuclear war we are. Haven't seen anything about that lately. I think it lost a little bit of credibility over time. But in any case, it was a time when there was a very real threat. People were building bomb shelters in their backyards. Civil defense posts and shelters were put up all over the place. Hardened bunkers to ensure missiles could still be fired off even after everything else was destroyed. And and of course we've all heard, or many of us have heard, about how there were so many missiles and atomic bombs and nuclear weapons, enough to destroy the Earth 10 times, if not more. So, in any case, yes. So it was a missile race. It was a race to be able to put payloads not only up in the air for defense, but also into space. And going back again to the intercontinental ballistic missiles, and again, I'm not sure if the Soviets had these, but I think they did, which is why they needed bigger rockets. But and the United States have them too. They're called multiple independently targeted nuclear vehicles, MIRVs for short. And the MIRV is like a nuclear, a cluster of nuclear bombs that you put on the ICBM. The ICBM goes up into space. The ICBM goes down within minutes to whatever the target is, towards whatever the target is, and then it releases these multiple independently targetable nuclear or vehicles, re-entry vehicles. That's what it is. So they actually drop them out. They drop them out in space, and then they come down, and then they spread out, and you can imagine how that works. And so, of course, the ultimate objective at the time was going to the moon. If you could develop a rocket that could go to the moon, the Soviets were working on it, the Americans worked on it, and much of the military-industrial complex in the United States and Soviet Union was sorry about that. So going to the moon, going to the moon was, well, it doesn't matter if you're an athlete, if you're in business, whatever you do. You set goals, and then you figure out how to accomplish and achieve those goals. So really, it was a technology race, and it was a technology race that the United States eventually won. But that doesn't mean the Russians don't have technology. Although I'd be pretty surprised if, looking at the way things are over there, I would be very, nuclear weapons require constant maintenance and upgrade, and I doubt that's been happening in Russia. And so, as a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure that's not happening in Russia. I'm not going to give anything away, but, anyways. Okay, so there we go. So the space race was really a missile race, and rockets were how you got into space. And that's going to bring me to my my next and final pontification here, and I'm going to talk about Dr. Robert H. Goddard. Many people who are familiar with with this genre and everything else, everybody knows about Wernher von Braun and the German missile people that were brought over. I'm not going to get into that. It was absolute. Well, actually, I'm going to get into it a little bit. You can say what you want. The guy was a Nazi. Most of the people who worked for him and around him were Nazis. But it was an absolute case of complete pragmatic realpolitik. Better for us to have him and working for us than if he'd gone to work for the Soviets. Because we see what they're doing in Ukraine, we see what they've been doing forever in that part of the world. And they are certainly not a benevolent entity. Nor are the Rus benevolent ethnic group. Okay, so we're going to talk about Robert Goddard. And Robert Goddard really was the father of not just American rocketry, but of rocketry around the world. So Robert Goddard, he was born in 1882 and died in 1945. And he is credited with creating and building the world's first liquid-fueled rocket, which he successfully launched March 16th, 1926. He was also a pioneer in solid fuel rocket technology, and by 1915, his work brought great strides to the solid fuel rocket technology. And it's considered to be the beginning of modern rocket and rocket innovation. Of course, rockets have been around for a long time. Chinese were using them way back when, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But between 1926 and 1941, his team launched 34 rockets. They achieved altitudes as high as 2.6 kilometers or 1.6 miles, and speeds as fast as 885 kilometers or 550 miles per hour. He's also credited as being the man who ushered in the space age and the space race. Throughout his life, he patented over 214 inventions, including a multi-stage rocket in 1914 and a fully liquid-fueled rocket again in 1914. His 1919 monograph, A Method of Reaching Extreme Altitudes, is considered one of the classic texts of 20th century rocket science. And it also heavily influenced Wernher von Braun and the German scientists. So, what goes around comes around, I guess. He also successfully pioneered modern methods such as two-axis control with gyroscopes and steerable thrust, that is, gimbaled um, engine exhaust. His work was considered in the small community as revolutionary, but he got very little public support, either moral or monetary, for his research and development work. He was a shy person, and also rocket research at the time wasn't really considered a suitable pursuit for a physics professor. He was mercilessly mocked and ridiculed, both by other scientists as well as the media, for his theories of spaceflight. And as a result, they practically drove him into becoming a recluse, fiercely guarding his work and his privacy. It wasn't until years after his death that he was given the credit that he was due, and came to be recognized as one of the founding fathers of modern rocketry. He not only recognized early on the potential of rockets for atmospheric research, but ballistic missiles and space travel as well. NASA has named the Goddard Space Flight Center in Maryland, outside Washington, D.C., named it in his honor in 1959. He was also inducted into the International Aerospace Hall of Fame and the National Aviation Hall of Fame in 1966, and the International Space Hall of Fame in 1976. He began doing his experiments as a child. He became fascinated when he saw the electrification of American cities, and and he was turned on to engineering and technology. He was a brilliant scientist. He worked at Clark University, and he also worked at Princeton University, where he investigated the effects of radio waves on insulators. And in order to generate radio frequency power, he invented a vacuum tube with a beam deflection that operated like a cathode ray oscillator tube. In early 1913, he became seriously ill with tuberculosis, and he had to leave his position at Princeton. Princeton, by the way, is also where Einstein worked. And it took him a long time to recover. It really took it out of him. And, that goes back a bit. Now tuberculosis is easily cured with antibiotics, but there were no antibiotics back then. And and it really just ravaged the lungs. So very difficult to, again, it's like, for younger people who, who were born in the computer age instead of the space age, they might not understand about things like that. But yeah, it's, terrible scourge. And so anyways, he became affiliated with the Smithsonian, and they appreciated his work, but they didn't have money for anything anyways, either. But something that's very little known is that he basically invented the bazooka. He looked at space travel and rockets and so on and so forth, but when the United States entered World War I, universities began to lend their services to the war effort, and he thought that his rocket research could be applied to various military applications. Field weapons, naval torpedoes, all sorts of different things. He was a brilliant man who had plenty of ideas, and some of them maybe a bit weird, but He's been proved out over time. He made proposals both to the Navy and the Army. There's no record at all that the Navy ever showed any interest in his proposals. But Army Ordnance was quite interested, and he met several times with Army personnel. Anyways, all kinds of different inventions came out of his head, and his illness kind of held things up quite a bit. But in the end, he did a lot, not just for rocketry, but for U.S. national defense. In 1919, Goddard thought it would be premature to discuss the results or disclose the results of his experiments because he felt his engine was not sufficiently developed. But a colleague of his, Webster, realized he'd accomplished a good deal of excellent work, and he pressed Goddard to publish his progress so far. And he basically threatened him. He said, if you don't do it, I will. So Goddard asked the Smithsonian if they published the report, updated with notes that he had submitted back in 1916. And in 1919, they published a method of reaching extreme altitudes. It describes his mathematical theories of rocket flight, his experiments with solid fuel rockets, possibilities. He saw possibilities of exploring Earth's atmosphere and beyond. Along with Konstantin Tsiolkovsky's earlier work, exploration of cosmic space by means of reaction devices. In case you didn't catch that, he was Russian. Goddard's report is regarded as one of the pioneering works of the science of rocketry. 1,750 copies were distributed worldwide, and as I said, eventually reached their way to Wernher von Braun and the German rocket scientists. He was one of the first to seriously propose. Most of his work dealt with nuts and bolts stuff, both theoretical and experimental relations between propellant, rocket mass, thrust, velocity, etc., etc., etc. And in the final section of that report, he included a calculation of minimum mass required to raise 1 pound to a quote-unquote infinite altitude, and proposed that they could not only reach the upper atmosphere, but to escape from Earth's gravitation altogether. And again, you have to remember, it's if you're a younger person, or if you're an older person that doesn't know the history, nobody really knew what was up there in the upper Earth's atmosphere. Aircraft could only go so high, and we did know that the higher you went, the thinner the air got and the colder it got. But beyond that, there was very little knowledge, and of course there was virtually nothing known. Nothing was known about outer space, except for what we could see from the Earth. So, in any case, I'm rambling on a little bit here, but he had so many ideas, and in 1920 he talked about photographing the moon and planets from rocket-powered flyby probes, sending distant messages messages to distant civilizations on inscribed metal plates. Hello, Voyager. Talked about the use of solar energy in space and the idea of high-velocity ion propulsion. Star Trek fans will know all about that. As a matter of fact, they use ion propulsion now. There's at least one NASA project out there using ion propulsion. Now, I had mentioned about some of the ridicule that he experienced. On January 12, 1920, a front-page story in the New York Times, excuse me, believes rocket can reach moon, reported a Smithsonian press release about a multiple-charge, high-efficiency rocket. The chief application envisaged was the possibility of sending recording apparatus to moderate and extreme altitudes within the Earth's atmosphere. The advantage over balloon-carried instruments being ease of recovery, since the new rocket apparatus would go straight up and come straight down. It also mentioned a proposal to send to the dark part of the moon a sufficiently large amount of most brilliant flash powder, which, in being ignited on impact, would be plainly visible in a powerful telescope. Maybe not, since we can't see the dark side of the moon. But his thought was this would be the only way of proving that the rocket had actually left Earth's gravity and that it would reach its destination. The next day, January 13th, 1920, the New York Times published an unsigned, cowards, New York Times editorial in a section entitled Topics of the Times, which scoffed at his proposal. The article bore the title, A Severe Strain on Credulity. And as smarmies do, it began with apparent approval, but soon went on to cast some serious doubt. I'll read you the quote here. This is from the editorial, as a method of sending a missile to the higher and even highest part of the Earth's atmospheric envelope, Professor Goddard's multiple charge rocket is a practicable and therefore promising device. We now say practical instead of practicable. Such a rocket, too, might carry self-recording instruments to be released at blah, blah, blah. It is not obvious, however, that the instruments would return to the point of departure. Indeed, it is obvious they would not, for parachutes drift exactly as balloons do. After the rocket quits our air and really starts on a longer journey, its flight would be neither accelerated nor maintained by the explosion of the charges it then might have left. Again, this is unsigned, anonymous, not like they dug up some quote-unquote expert. To claim that it would be is to deny a fundamental law of dynamics, and only Dr. Einstein and his chosen dozen, so few and fit, are licensed to do that. In other words, they're telling him he's not in their league. And of course, Goddard only seems to lack the knowledge ladled out daily in high schools. Of course, as we all know now, thrust is possible in a vacuum. A week later, Goddard released a signed statement to the Associated Press, attempting to restore reason to what had become a sensational, stupid, false narrative. The New York Times. Too much attention, and he wrote, too much attention has been concentrated on the proposed flash powder experiment, and too little on the exploration of the atmosphere. Whatever interesting possibilities there may be of the method that has been proposed, other than the purpose for which it was intended, no one of them could be undertaken without first exploring the atmosphere. In 1924, he went on to publish an article, How My Speed Rocket Can Propel Itself in a Vacuum. He explained the physics and showed experiments that he had done to prove the theory. But the damage had been done. And a local Worcester newspaper, which is near where he was living, they carried a mocking headline, Moon Rocket Misses Target by 238,799.5 miles. And as I said, after this, he became increasingly reclusive, guarded his privacy, guarded his ideas. There have been more than one who came along trying to exploit his ideas and steal them outright. Okay. And now here comes the kicker. 49 years after its editorial mocking Goddard, whose ideas had been proven to be mostly correct, and you'll also know July 17th, 1969 was the date of the first launch to the moon, or the day after. So, most of his stuff had been proven to be correct, and a lot of it went into what went into the moon shot. In what should be shocking, but isn't really, in a shockingly smarmy way, the New York Times published a short item under the headline, A Correction. There was a 3-paragraph statement that summarized its 1920 editorial, but then concluded, further investigation and experimentation have confirmed the findings of Isaac Newton in the 17th century, and is now definitely established that a rocket can function in a vacuum as well as in an atmosphere. The Times regrets the error. And as I read that, I'm really trying not to vomit. Not much has changed in all that time. Not from 1919, not from 1969, and not now. They couldn't even bring themselves to mention his name. They brought up Isaac Newton. My goodness. Yeah. The United States of America's newspaper of record. Bleh. Okay, so enough of that. Enough of the yapping. We're going to get into this kit. Alright, so we open her up and we're met with this very nice glossy sales promotion. All kinds of stuff here. Monitor and Merrimack, Civil War, ironclads. Got drag racers here. The moon ship. Enter the age of space. anyways, lots of fun stuff there. And we've seen this before. The Wright Cyclone radial engine. Yeah, great stuff. I appreciate everyone's indulgence. If, you know, and I hope that people find my little productions enjoyable and informative, interesting. If you don't, well, there's a little thing you can just slide it right through and move along. Okay, so we have one sprue bag. Like I say, originally tooled in 1957, not a lot of parts. You know, I'm not expecting a lot here, but let's take a look and see. So we've got the parts here for the trailer or launch stand or launch platform. There's flash on the sprue here, but there's no flash on the parts. That's very nice. Okay, there we go. Get this. There's some nice detail here. You can see the. Can you see the crisscross? Oh, well. You know, there's that nice metal crisscross, whatever. And then you've got the boosters here. You know, it's a missile. It doesn't have a lot of extra detail. It looks like a needle. You point it. Fire comes out the end. And before they know it, your enemies are destroyed. Yes. Okay. I'm just real high. Okay, so there we go. There's the missile body itself. Again, no flash. You know, there's a major flash here. But there's no flash on these parts. There's some nice little detail here. It looks like these pitons or pitons. Sorry, pitons fly. Pitons keep you from falling off the mountain or the glacier. Okay, so yeah, very nice here. You know, it's intact. No issue with that. Nicely molded. And we got couple little pieces here that have fallen off. Looks like these guidance planes, and this looks like a foot from the launch platform. And these were meant to be mobile. You know, they could be moved around from place to place. And I think I've mentioned before about. When we lived in the San Francisco Bay Area, we lived in Mill Valley, and right at the Marin headlands there, it's now a national park administered by the National Park Service. There's the decommissioned Nike missile base there, which is a very interesting place to visit. So if you're in the San Francisco Bay Area, I don't know why anyone would voluntarily go there these days. But if you are in the San Francisco Bay Area, go across the Golden Gate Bridge and mosey up there to the Marin headlands. It's a beautiful drive. You get a beautiful view of the city. Go in the afternoon. If you go before 11 o'clock in the morning, you're not going to see anything but fog. So yeah. Don't get me wrong. I ain't promoting no tourism to. Anyways, I'll stop now. Okay, so we got a little bit of flash here on this one piece, or couple of these pieces here. And they look like pistons for the launcher, launch platform. And we got the base. Yeah, that was a foot for something. Okay. And so, yeah, a tiny little bit of flash. And this is the second Atlantis model that I've had that was originally a Revell tooling. So, you know, I guess, I don't know, they you know, everybody does that. They used to share stuff back and forth and all that kind of stuff. So, okay, and so, yeah, so we've got a engine nozzle here. Oh, and I talked about the space race and so on and so forth. Oh, here's another foot. The engines for the Nike missile, along with the Redstone that was developed by von Braun's team, used Rocketdyne engines, and these were the same engines that were on the Saturn V rocket. It was 5 Rocketdyne engines clustered together. And I'm going to put a link in the description. Many of you may have already seen it. If you haven't, then I would encourage you to click on that link, put on your headphones, turn off the lights, and if you have a big screen TV, put it on there if you can. I tell you, that Apollo 11 launch, yeah, there's just no describing it. So go check it out. Yeah. People can say what they want. I'm not going to listen to people who say we never went to the moon. Yes, we did, multiple times. I'm not going to argue about it. I don't care. We're still benefiting from the technology that was developed all those decades ago. Not only the technology, but the ideas that it produced. So, in any case, so here we go, and as promised, we've got we've got here. There's a little bit of warping here, but this piece is so fine. I think it's just gonna fit right in, just settle right in where it's supposed to settle, and it'll be fine. And we've got 3 figures here in white. These have some flash on them, and the detail is not bad. See if we can get that up for you there. Yeah, they're not bad, and we'll see how they look when I prime them up with some of my Vallejo airbrush primer. Yeah, got some of that. Okay, so this gets tucked in. So I've been working on the Hasegawa, among other things. People who know me know I have a whole bunch of stuff on the go all at once. Yeah, it's a constant battle between the obsessive compulsive disorder and the ADHD. But I do manage to get some model kitten done, so, and I have a lot of fun. Right now, here, since we're talking about it, here's Depayet's body, or de Paillet's body for the Tyrol P-34. His had some problems with the rattle can paint, and I got him, I don't know, I got his head stuck in the, it's starting to come off now. It was blistering, and I don't know what the problem is, but I'm going to strip it right down, start all over again. Okay, yeah, and yeah, I'm going to finish off the B-29 Super Fortress. I'm going to have a final on that. Pretty much done, just some touch-ups and decaling to do, or decaling to do. Speaking of decaling, if anybody out there, if they know how to tell the difference between cartograph and other waterslide documents, or other waterslide, what do you call these things? Decals, decals, transfers. Yeah, there you go. Threw you a loop there, didn't I? Okay, yeah, so we have these here. So yeah, if anybody can tell me the difference and how to identify which is which, I'd really appreciate it. I know Tamiya does their own. I've heard about Edward's new ones. So in any case, not a lot here. You know, you've got some unit insignia, some really cool lightning bolts. U.S. Army, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, so there you go. Kind of interesting, not just here, but with the tank. Churchill. When he proposed the tank, he was First Lord of the Admiralty, and he had proposed the idea of a land ship, and the Army wasn't very interested, but he managed to finagle funding, not sure if it was legal or not, to have it developed, and then once the Army did see the development proposal, then they were pleased. Okay, so here we go. And it looks like they've redone this as Atlantis. We get a very nice black and white, well, I guess black and white picture of what's on the box. Gives you information on the decaling. Read this before you begin. Now this kind of looks Revell-ish. Unlike Revell, they provide not a great, huge amount of history, but what I read to you there. So, oh, and a bit about Bell Telephone. You know, a lot of people think about the Bell Telephone Company and they think telephones. If you're around my age in North America and had anything to do with business, you remember when the Bell system was ordered to break up and spin off. So many of their regional holdings, most famous of which was probably AT&T. And just like I tell you, just like when British Telecom went public, Yeah. Lots of money to be made there. And I made some of it. Okay, so yeah, here we've got this here. But yeah, the Bell Telephone Company was, and through its subsidiary Westinghouse, um, was really a high technology company for throughout its life. My father worked for Bell Canada, and when I was just little, he took off for, I guess it was 8 months, 8 or 10 months. And he worked doing installations up on the Dew Line. He worked on Resolution Island, and the Dew Line, the distant early warning system. He and his team were responsible for installing all the electronics, and he also told me that he and his technicians, he led the team. He was, they were actually under the United States Air Force, and he was given the rank of Master Sergeant, and all of his guys were, of course, all guys. This was back in 1963, 1962. And all of his guys were sergeants. So, but he told me that when it came to the technical installation stuff, he and his team had the same authority as the base commander. So, in other words, if they needed something, they got it. There you go. So, yeah, he told me he had a lot of stories to tell me about that up there in far, far in Canada's north. Now, I haven't been there, but I've been to Ellesmere Island. And, yeah, not in a hurry to go back. Neither was he, for that matter. I think for about 4 months that he was, for half the time he was up there, it was dark. Yeah, and, yeah. So he always used to laugh when we watched Ice Station Zebra. He's like, there you go, you know, their rifles, they're pointing their rifles at the wrong people. They need to worry about the bears. Anyways, Russian bears, right? Yeah. Okay, so here we go. Important to read this. Use only styrene cement. Da 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 la 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 la. Yeah, this doesn't look Revell-ish either. It looks a little different. And we have some quite fine print. I'll be able to deal with it. But some very nice quality photographic style drawings. And like I said, this isn't a complicated kit. It doesn't have a lot of parts, whatever. Just kind of a fun thing. Did I tell you when I'm done with the Hasegawa Voyager, there's going to be a bit of a rant? Hasegawa fanboys out there, you better not tune in for that one. Okay, so step 1, 2, 3, assemble the missile. 4, 5, 6, assemble the launch platform. And yeah, it's not real complicated. Pretty straightforward stuff. Quality of plastic looks nice. I've had a couple other Atlantis kits, just fine, no complaints. And then we have deploying the missile onto the launch launch platform. Final launch platform assembly, and I do believe this will move up and down. Here we go. See here. Yeah, do not cement this, do not cement that. So yeah, it's designed to go up and down. And so yeah, it's growing here. First it started out with the Saturn V Apollo 11. And yesterday, well, we got the space shuttle and the Hasegawa Voyager, and now this. So it's going to be a fun little. I have a kind of a built-in half dresser. Anyways, it's all going to look nice on there. And they give you decorations and mounting of the figures, and of course you can do those or not, do some or none. Might be fun just to do, just to paint up 140. I've done 135s, a few 135s, lots of 148s, some 172s, but never a 140 or a 132 for that matter. So, anyways, might be fun. And yeah, you have to agree, it's a wicked-looking little missile, isn't it? Hey, Tovarich, is this the last thing you see? Okay. Enough of that. Alright, so now it comes down to time to rate the kit. And here we go. Put that up there. Looks real nice. Looks like something out of the Hulk, eh? You remember? not the movie with Eric Bana, the movie with the Marvel cartoon TV show. Yeah. Anyways, yeah. If you haven't checked that out, check it out. It's a lot of fun. Okay, so yeah, very 50-ish, 50s-ish, very stylized, and looks like this might be New York. Anyways, lovely picture of the missile itself, and got some good action stuff going on. Yeah. I've avoided getting Russian, Chinese, and Nazi things lately. Well, actually, that's my policy going forward. But I might just have to get a Russian bomber aircraft so I can point the Nike missile at it. Oh, I'm just being mean now. Alright, so here we go. Packaging. I use a 12-point system. Of course, it's entirely subjective. You don't have to agree with me. If I've got something wrong, please let me know. If you want to disagree, please disagree. Just don't be abusive about it. So, okay, and the other thing is that I want to ask, maybe a bit late at the end, everybody else does it earlier. Give me a like, will you? Come on, yeah, give me some likes. I have 446 subscribers, and I ain't in this for money, never will be, never monetize the channel. But if people could acknowledge that they appreciate what I'm doing, that would be very nice. Okay, so yeah, here we go. 12-point system, 10 points, 10 standard points, 2 points, up to 2 points for packaging, up to 2 points for the sprues, up to 3 points for the parts, and up to 3 points for the instructions. Each of those categories can receive a quarter-point bonus for any wow factors, unexpected things, things that are done especially well, whatever the case may be. And then lastly, I allow for up to 1 full bonus point for what I call value. Not sure if I mentioned it, but this kit cost $48 Canadian, free shipping. Took a while, but I got it. So as far as packaging is concerned, 2 full points, beautifully boxed up in a good sturdy cardboard box, and this was absolutely pristine. Quarter point bonus. That's a wow factor. You know, no dents, no bashes, no whatevers. As far as the sprues go, 2 full points. Everything was complete. A little bit of flash, but not really. Yeah, I mean, nothing to ding them for. There didn't look to be any inconvenient molding bubbles, ejection pin marks, ejection pin locations, anything like that. Looked pretty good. So a full 3 points there. Or sorry, full 2 points. As far as parts are concerned, that's a full 3 points. Quality of plastic's good. Detail was nice. It's a missile, or a missile, or it might be a decal, or a decal. So yeah, nice decals. Not you would but yeah, nice decals. And I think there's even some decals for the insignias here. Check that. Yes, indeed, it looks like there are. Okay, and then as far as instructions go, that's a full 3 points. They had a nice little blurb on the history of the subject, which is always great. The instructions were clear. They were laid out nicely. It's a fairly simple kit, fairly simple assembly. So yeah, nothing to complain about there. 3 full points. So that brings us to standard and wow factor bonus points to 10 and a quarter. And you know, $48 is you might say it's a bit much to be spending on a kit like this, but like I said at the beginning, it's a little different subject. It's and certainly a vintage model kit. Yeah, but yeah, I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want to pay more than that for it. They also, in the same series, I should mention, they have a kit which I'm not recommending. It's pretty toyish. But anyways, it has a display stand with all of the early rockets and missiles. So you can check that out. Okay, and so a quarter point bonus for value. It is what it is. And the reason I give it a quarter point at all is because I like it. And it was $48 worth of I like it. So there we go. So 10.5, very respectable score. And like I said, if you agree with me or disagree with me, leave a comment, leave a like. I appreciate everybody's comments, all the time everybody spends on the channel. And speaking of time, we're getting a little late here. Hour and 20 minutes. I hope this is a weekender for sure. Yeah. So, anyways, yeah, I hope, like I started to say at the beginning, I'm no master modeler, but I hope that people enjoy what I'm doing here with this channel. A little bit of a, like I said, I understand. I'm no master modeler, not even a very good modeler. A lot of people might say. I don't care. They can say what they want. But knowing those failures, what I try to do is bring some interesting commentary and without too much opinionation, and interesting history and information. So, for those who appreciate it, thank you. I appreciate your appreciation. For those who don't, well, there's lots of other channels out there, but not very many where you're going to see this. No, no, no. Yeah. All right, so thanks again. And again, thanks to everyone who's expressed their condolences regarding Jack. It really has helped a lot, and it is comforting. So thanks again, and we will be seeing you very soon. Bye now.